Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
That's it. It's over. We're done.
Well, not quite yet, Drew. I know this is the final episode of Season 15, but we do get to enjoy it before we take our break.
Yeah. Good point, Sam. Good point. And I am looking forward to doing just that.
Yeah, hopefully our listeners and viewers are as well, Drew. So, to be honest, there's no reason to keep them waiting, is there?
Exactly, Sam. Let's dive right in.
Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit back and enjoy Drewling Samantics Season 15, Best of Drew and Sam. Well, slap my arse and call me Geraldine. It's Andrew Fettis in the flesh, or on my screen, I should say. Hello, mate. How are you?
And there you are, Geraldine, with a smacked ass. How you doing, Mr. Dunning? It has been some time, hasn't it?
It really has. And can I say, for anyone that stumbled across this podcast by mistake, that wasn't the normal kind of greeting or intro that sort of happens, but it's probably weeded out like the people that shouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, by now we've lost the hangers on. The people who want to stay are staying with us.
Yeah.
And
on that note, the people who have stayed with us for a long fucking time, and I say a long fucking time because it has been a long fucking time.
5 years, mate.
15, nearly 5 years. Yeah,
nearly 5 years.
Thank you to all of you if you're back.
Yeah.
Again. Welcome back. To anyone who is not a returning listener or watcher, or is not a veteran of Drewling Samantics, we should probably sort of explain who we are and what we do, mate. So, why don't you start off? Why don't you kind of? I'll let you take the lead on this.
Well, all right then. Well. The gentleman sharing the screen with me, his name is not Geraldine.
No.
You have Mr. Sam Dunning. I'm Andrew Fettis, and we started Drewling Samantics, as we just said then, coming up to 5 years ago during the great lockdown, the unwelcome guest, call it what you will. We are two jobbing actors. We're not famous. We're not probably ever going to be famous, but what we are is, well, yeah, fingers crossed. Why not? Fingers crossed. But we are two jobbing actors who love what we do. And we missed doing what we were doing during lockdown, so we started Drewling Samantics. That was 15 seasons ago, coming up to 5 years ago. We keep doing it because, A, we love doing this, and we love talking about the business and sharing it with people who are either in the business or not. But also, every other week, we have a friend or a colleague or someone we've worked with, someone we admire, from the business, working in many different spheres, from makeup to stage management to fellow actors. We've got screenwriters, writers, directors, producers, you name it, they've been on, stunt people. We try and gather these wonderful people from all different spheres because every job is valuable in our industry. Every job is needed. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to stand in front of a screen, in front of a camera or on a stage and do what we do. So we get those people along to share their enjoyment, their love and knowledge of the business. And I don't know what you think, Sam, but well, we certainly enjoy it, and it seems to be working. I mean, people still come back to us and listen to us and enjoy us. So, yeah, what the hey? We'll keep on doing it.
I don't know, mate. I don't think I could have put it much better. I think I would have just said we got a bit bored because we weren't allowed to do any proper acting. So we just had a bit of a rant and it's got out of control and we don't know how to stop it.
We have created a monster.
Yes.
Well, there's no beating about the bush. We are 5 years old. As Sam said, within a couple of days, we started Drewling Samantics with our first episode, and we have been successfully podcasting as Drewling Samantics for 5 years, my friend.
I want to say 27th or 28th of February 2021.
Wow.
Back in the midst of lockdowns and unwelcome guests and a time where things were very different. And that sounds really dramatic, but I think it's absolutely true. It was a very different world.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
is absolutely the reason why we're here now, or more specifically, why we started doing the podcast, because the world was a very different place. And we felt there were messages that needed to be heard. I thought, why don't we have a little bit of a quiz to kick off? Because I know you often do this for me and I quite like it, but I thought I'd flip it round. Would you like to try and tell me, if I gave you some names of productions or stories, for want of a better word, I wonder if you could tell me what came first, the film or the musical? Now, don't get me wrong, some of the films are still musicals, but I'm talking about like proper, like physical productions. You could have gone to the West End or on Broadway or
so sort of stage musicals.
Yeah, proper stage musicals, and then films which had a cinema release. Or modern days, I suppose you could include stuff that goes straight to sort of stream media or what have you. But most things now, most things I'm going to go into had a cinema release at some point. And it's funny because I do a lot of reviewing and I like to go to the theatre as much as possible. I'm also going to see Beetlejuice later this year. I've got tickets booked for that. And that's the first one I'm going to ask you, mate, because I think it's quite an easy in. So Beetlejuice, what came first? Was it the musical or was it the movie?
I would have to go with the movie.
Absolutely correct. Yes. I mean, I looked into that one. There doesn't seem to be anything prior to the movie from what I've seen, and people feel free to write to us or message us and correct us if we get some stats wrong here. But from our research, what we are going to volunteer is true to the extent that we know. But Beetlejuice, I think, was just written as a standalone screenplay. So yeah, it wasn't based on anything. It's not like an old wives' tale or an old fairy tale or something like that. Beetlejuice was this brand new thing that they wrote. Was it 80s, 90s? Can't remember off the top of my head. But
I might go for 80s, I think. But
yeah, certainly
the age of Michael Keaton. Yeah,
30 odd years ago, if not more.
Yeah.
And yeah, but then was turned into a musical probably 10 years ago now, because it wasn't hugely well received on Broadway from what I remember, but it's come to the UK for the first time despite trying for about the past 5 or 6 years. I think because I remember seeing the castings going out, and I think it was around about 2019 2020, because I think it got halted because of the unwelcome guest. So it's been a long time coming, but I'm really looking forward to that one. But yes, there was a nice easy start for
easy in.
What about let's go for Calendar Girls. Yeah, see, that one's thrown it at you.
Now, I know I'm going to go movie first.
So actually, it was a little bit of a trick question. I've been a bit mean there. Yes, the movie came before the musical, but where did the movie come from?
Television.
Number one, it's based on true events, but actually, it was a Tim Firth play before it was the film, and then became the musical. So that's why Tim Firth's been involved at all. But yes,
I forgot that was a play. Yes, of course,
exactly. So there's a good one for you. Right, what about Cabaret?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Because it is a movie, but before going to stage, I'd say movie first.
So, Cabaret was a film before it was a musical. But the film was
a musical
on a play, which was based on a novel. So we've got 4 sort of levels there, back and forth. And
was that novel Christopher Isherwood? Was that?
I think it may have been. I've got limited notes because otherwise I could have had a whole book here.
Yeah.
But yes, certainly. So the novel was loosely adapted into the play, which was then turned into the film, and then they've more recently than the film itself.
Yeah.
And I think there may have been a second version of the film, or a more modern version of the film as well.
Yeah, there's been a couple. Well, because they filmed the stage play, and so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
something I really wanted to talk about was, and you used the word collaboration. Now, we've talked before on the show about there is an opportunity to do low or no paid work, unpaid work. And I was going to say we've been very against it. We're not completely against it. It has a place in the industry for certain reasons. But I think it needs to be addressed and managed in absolutely the right way for it to be appropriate and fair. And collaboration sort of sits in the same realm, but for all the right reasons. So, for example, a very obvious collaboration. As everyone knows, we're a non-profit podcast. We don't take a wage. We did this as an awareness thing because we were grumpy that we were in lockdown, so to speak. And it's just kept going. And the fact that you guys will tune in and listen and watch means that we want to keep creating it. And it's giving awareness and for people in the industry, for news and current affairs within the industry, and we will just keep that going. And in this case, obviously, we're very lucky that Phil's here with us, recording and making everything look beautiful. Well, making me look beautiful and Drew look human. Ish.
I'm hoping it's going to take a few years off, but not even those cameras can do that. But anyway,
no. They say the camera adds weight, don't they? Like adds £10, but is it added 10 years for you? What's going on?
Just carry on talking about the collaboration.
Oh, you don't like this tangent?
Since Friday, you might be right. But
yeah, that's very good. So we're obviously collaborating with Phil. So Phil has very kindly come in, but the reason being that we are all of us gaining something out of it. So we are creating content which runs in line with what we do. We create episodes on a weekly basis, bar the gap here and there for end of season or what have you. So we're gaining an episode. We would have had an episode regardless, but we're gaining almost like an upgraded episode from a visual point of view. Phil is a freelancer, and although he's done all sorts of different projects, recording a podcast, it's fair to say, Phil, you haven't really done a podcast before? Those hands are supposed to say, you can talk, will he? Just say, no, I haven't.
No, I haven't.
There we go. So he's got a voice. He is here. But yeah, so this was almost an opportunity for Phil to add a little extra something to a show reel or an example of work that he could then expand a bit more and go, look, clients, if this is something that you want, we're seeing a lot more now in advertising that, and sorry, spoiler alert, a lot of those podcast clips you see on TikTok and Instagram where they're talking about a product, it's not a real podcast. Sorry, ruined that there. But this is an opportunity, so to speak, for Phil to be able to have some content like that. So if someone was looking for a videographer, producer who can create that kind of content, he's got some examples of it. So great, we're all in this together. We're all getting something out of it. And that, obviously, is the premise of a collaboration.
Did you know in the recent Golden Globes, on which we will get in a moment, that there was a new podcast award this year?
I did not.
A podcast category. Can you? So you see, podcasts are everywhere. What?
Why weren't we nominated?
I've no idea. I don't know, mate. We were busy.
What?
We were busy.
Well, no. I mean, being busy would meant that we turned down the opportunity to attend. Not being contacted at all means that the bastards out there listening and watching haven't voted for us.
I feel slighted and offended.
Yeah, so do I. Should we stop this and just go, no, we're not doing it anymore?
No, because I'll have nothing much to do on a Tuesday then.
We need to look busy, don't we?
We do. Yeah, we do.
But anyway, you lot out there, we want to be nominated next time, so do something about it. Thank you.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about how the world of being a performer and the world of acting is far from glamorous. Now, don't get me wrong. To be at an Oscars ceremony, I think, is probably pretty glam.
That's probably the height of glamour, isn't it?
It is. However, there are some sort of, even within it being the biggest event of the year in the film calendar and probably the most watched award ceremony outside of sport.
Yeah.
There are still some secrets that make it maybe not as glam as you might think. And do you know where the Oscars was this year? Or has been for a few years, I believe.
No, I did hear it, but no, tell us, Sam, because I'm not going to guess.
So yeah, so it's quite interesting because obviously it is super glamorous, but the ceremony itself is hosted in a Dolby Theatre, which is in a shopping centre. Yeah, so don't get me wrong, it's still super glamorous, and they shut the road off, and then they put out this massive red carpet, and at the end of the day, it's on Hollywood Boulevard. Can't even speak. Hollywood Boulevard.
Boulevard. Well done.
That's the one.
I would prefer it to be on Boulevard. That would be so much better.
That's as close as we're going to get, isn't it, on the Boulevard?
The Boulevard.
Yes. And then you've got, I think it's called the Lowe's Hotel, which is opposite, which is where a lot of interviews take place, and the media sort of covering that, they deal with that over there, and they shut off sort of massive areas, and particularly this year, even more security than perhaps previous years. Things like multiple metal detectors and things, but obviously there's so much going on in the world, and particularly in the States, we're always hearing of the latest sort of tragedy and what have you. And so they were super, I was going to say overkill. Actually, it's not overkill. They were just super safe.
Probably isn't.
Yes. No, it sort of made me smile that despite it being the biggest, most glamorous, most crazy thing, and what is it, the 98th ceremony? So God knows what they're going to do in 2 years to celebrate 100.
God knows.
That's going to be crazy. But yes, it is technically in a shopping centre. So there you go. There's a little fun fact for you, that despite it being super glam, it's also a bit shit.
Obviously now I know on my CV it doesn't say, playing age 35 to 40. I've had to temper that a little bit. But by the same token, I've no desire to say, well, when I reach, 70, I'm going to stop. No, if I'm able to, I'll still be working when I'm 80. There's no need to. There's no need to stop, unless, and I will know it, because the thing is, I suppose it's like being a sportsman. If your performance is suffering because of your age or circumstances, you'd pull back. There are things that I can't, there are things I can't do now. But you learn that, and I think that's one of what we've learned. Talking to a lot of our guests, they've gone, I went down that path. My life took me down that path because I'm good at that, or I went down that path because I was no longer good at that. And I think I haven't had a plan. I've taken. It's very strange coming from someone who's fairly risk averse. I like the unpredictability of the business, and equally when the highs come along, they're even higher because you don't know. So the successes that one has, and the buzz and pleasure you get from being successful, from working. I get a buzz every time I get a job, because it's like, ha, I'm working, yay!
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So that I will never lose that.
No, and I think it's you brought up sports people as sort of an analogy. I think it's interesting to look into that, because some sports aside, they're not necessarily affected by your age in the same way. But certainly there are a lot out there, if we used football as an example, or perhaps sprinting in track and field. There comes a point where you are no longer able to achieve the levels at which you may have been at. And quite often, I guess, in the sporting world, you'll find people will retire or change discipline or what have you, because they've got to a point they're like, well, now is the time to stop, because it can't get any better, or I can't better what I've done. I don't think that exists with us, because I think it's all relative. Yes, you may not be able to play that hero in perhaps a superhero movie once you go beyond a certain age, but it doesn't mean you can no longer be number one on the billing or the hero in something, because it's not as tapered down to a point. There is no expiry in the same way.
That's very expiry date is a really good way of putting it. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
And we're not saying that, because look at footballers as an example. You can be on the top of the game, and then you don't have to retire, but you could go to a slightly lower level and to a slightly lower level, and you'll still get I'm sure you still get the enjoyment and the thrill of it, but you are not at the pinnacle anymore. And for some people, I guess can you handle that? Do you pull out at a certain point? I don't think it's comparable with what we do. I mean, here's an example. Look at someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger as an example. So when he was younger, he was obviously the huge, muscly hero. But even beyond when he was at his peak of fitness, he's still been able to do some of the most incredible things and still been like elite, just not in quite the same way. Yeah. And I don't think perhaps you could say, if you then said someone like Gary Lineker as an example, elite footballer, one of the greatest this country has ever seen, stopped doing that, became an elite pundit, one of the best TV presenters the country has ever seen. But they're not the same thing. Whereas I think going from being a 25-year-old superhero to, I don't know, unbelievable leading man as like a detective in your 60s or something, still at the same level, just a slightly different discipline there.
If you look back at Shakespeare, I'm going to look at my notes. I mean, there have been so many Romeo and Juliets, so many, like if you look at like Romeo and Juliet, 1968 was the Zeffirelli movie, and that there was so many, controversies around that. But also the wonderful thing about Romeo and Juliet 1968, it starred someone who wrote one of my favourite movies. Is Bruce Robinson played Benvolio in that, and Bruce Robinson went on to write Withnail and I and How to Get Ahead in Advertising. So he became, after being in the movie, he wrote Withnail and I in 1987, produced it. And of course, you got one of the most popular versions of Romeo and Juliet was Leonardo DiCaprio, and Claire Danes, and that was in 1996. So it's a long way between
making me feel old.
But it's extraordinary. And then Henry V, and those like the Olivier version in 1944. I mean, Laurence Olivier was, obviously he played Henry, and he was also the director. And then another popular version that was the Ken Branagh in 1989, and he was the lead and the director in that. So it's interesting how those two, and Branagh at that time was a very young actor, he was fresh out. He was he was good, but suddenly there was this huge furore around him, and that and it's like, wow, that they gave him this enormous film. But also in I know there's a couple of little things off in the 1989 Henry V, Christian Bale played Robin the Luggage Boy. How about that?
Was that his first foray into film?
What happened to Christian Bale? I mean,
Yeah, it's such a shame that from there, just nothing really did after that, did he?
No. But there are so many. I mean, if you look at the adaptations of Othello, and all the stuff that went from Shakespeare to film to and then musicals. You got Kiss Me Kate. Loads of a really rich vein of and of course you got Shakespeare in the 1600s, and then we had hundreds of years since then to make movies.
Christmas done, out the way. You've hung up your red coat. I've hung up my red coat. Interestingly, two very interesting coats, granted. And it's now on to 2026. We've dived in full throttle. Have you done much this year already?
No.
I thought you were building up to something there.
That's a couple of weeks. I've done. I went over. I've done a Fawlty Towers. Went over did the dinner theatre in Ireland. Oh, exactly the same weekend as I did it last year. Wow. But we were asked to go back. A beautiful hotel. It's a very old, very Athboy is the town in County Meath, which I found out is the home of the original Halloween. Halloween started there. I think I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but Samhain or Samhain, the festival at the end of summer, towards Harvest Festival, which is between the end of summer and the beginning of winter. So the two worlds collide.
Yeah.
And it's where the veil between the living and the dead is very thin. Okay. So they have a big festival, and they had this festival in Athboy out there. They did the first big festivals were there, which led on then to Halloween as we know it today. So the first, so we didn't know that, and we were actually picked up from the airport. We're sitting in a cab, and the cabbie was telling us, and he was a very knowledgeable Irishman who liked to chat. And he told us all, and I never knew that. And I then went, gonna check this out. So I got to the hotel, Googled it, and he was absolutely right.
Wow. I thought Halloween was American. I thought it was I thought it was South American because Day of the Dead festival.
Well, see, that's. I think they all, certainly Halloween, you might be right there, in the Americas, but certainly in this country, and or Ireland. But yeah, Samhain, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, apologies. But that was the big festival. And they used to light a massive beacon on the hill and various hills around. And every year they have a festival called, it's spelt Pecu, Peku, however, it's said in Gaelic. But yeah, and Athboy, for a week at that time, they had this massive festival. And so the home of Halloween could be said to be Athboy. Wow. Which also has this lovely hotel where we were performing Fawlty Towers last weekend, which was lovely. Yeah.
Wow. I want to go back to something you mentioned a minute ago, just as part of your explanation there. The word risk. And I think that might actually be part of the key to this, because I think the level of risk runs in relation with what you invest. So if you were casting a movie and you put Idris Elba as your lead role, you said to him, look, we've got this, would you like to do it? And he said, well, I like the script, whatever. And you said, okay, we're going to give you $25 million to do this movie. He is not a risk. Idris Elba is fucking unbelievable.
No, he's going to work every penny of his 25 million.
So you are taking zero risk, but you're putting the money behind it for that. If you take Billy, who's done his first year at drama school, and you're doing a student movie and you've got no budget, and you go, do you know what? We're going to give Billy a chance. We're going to take the risk on him that he can play this role. He's not a professional yet. He's not got credits, or might not have credits. He hasn't got a profile. He hasn't got a massive CV to back him up. But we're not paying for him to do this because he's agreed to do this as experience, as a credit. So the risk then comes in that, but you are not putting money behind that. You're not paying for something that isn't certain.
But he's also Billy's taking a risk as well, because if the company aren't well known and if they're not paying any money, then they probably aren't well known or are building up their reputation.
Yeah.
He's taking a risk also, because he could be involved in something, taking the actor side in it. He could also be involved.
Exactly. So I think that comes into play here.
I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
It's totally right.
We'll get off the age thing in a minute, but I have to tell you, I was doing a Fawlty Towers show the other night, and as is my wont as Manuel, I was under the tables searching for rats, hamsters, bread rolls, goodies as well. And I decided that, and this table was about 25, 30 foot long, that I would start at one end and go all the way to the other end of the table on my way, pulling legs and, tickling people and the rest and getting, and it was going very well. Until I got halfway along, and then there was a bar about 18 inches, maybe less from the floor. And I had to go under this bar to get along the table. And I thought, I did get halfway through and I was dragging my backside under this bar again. What the fuck are you doing?
You are a man in your late 80s.
Yeah. I said, should I be doing you, silly? And I got to the other end and sort of worked my way from the table. And this lady looked at me, she went, he's terribly lithe, isn't he? And I thought, you have no idea how I'm going to suffer for this in the morning, love.
I often tease you for being small, Drew, but in that instance, even you weren't petite enough to find commando crawling under the guests an easy feat.
Yes, Sam, the regret grew pretty rapidly the more and more I realised I may have made a rather large mistake.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed hearing about it nonetheless, mate. So, before we relive more funny stories and chats, I'm just going to go and top up my drink, all right?
Oh, yeah, I'll do the same.
Right, are you back, Drew?
I am indeed, buddy. Shall we get stuck in again?
Oh, that is bad. But I'll tell you what isn't bad. The fact that we can get stuck back in to listening to some more clips.
Yeah, here we go then. What's next?
Good morning, mate. Here I am.
Top of the morning to you there, Sam.
Oh, how did I know?
Slanger. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. For anyone not following, well, no one will be following. No one knows what you're referencing there. And that's not a reflection on your Irish impersonation. It's a very good Irish.
I think it might be.
Maybe a bit of both. Hello, everyone watching, listening, wherever you happen to be. Drew and I have both just come back from Ireland. Hence his little bit of Irish speak there.
Irish greeting, yeah.
Weirdly, we both went to Ireland at the same time. We both came back from Ireland at the same time. Were we in Ireland together? No, we bloody weren't.
No, we weren't. No, miles apart.
But anyway, cheers to you, or as you say,
yeah.
Yes.
Larger, mate. There we go. Lovely.
How was Ireland? Did you enjoy? I mean, stupid question. I know you did because I was speaking to you. But
yeah,
but those out there, we were both out doing immersive dinner theatre experiences. You were Fawlty Towersing. I
was in Dublin one night, and then up to Belfast at lovely Belfast Castle the next night.
Yeah.
Where were you? You were out. You were at the sticks somewhere, weren't you?
Yeah. So flew out to Kerry, then taxi to somewhere else in Cork, isn't it? That's County Cork, and then went further north the following day to County Galway to
nice.
Beautiful hotel that you've been to before as well.
Yeah.
So but very much sort of the west coast and in Ireland, whereas you obviously were the other side. So yeah, but it was and to tell you what, the Emerald Isle is rather beautiful, isn't it? And we had a good time out there. Both
it was lovely.
Respectively, you doing Fawlty Towers, I was doing a Lower Low, or dinner theatre that pays homage to the great comedy that is a Lower Low. And then we've come back, mate, flown back in, and it's bloody weather warnings and horrible. It's almost.
I know. I mean, I have to say, Sunday morning in Belfast was a little bit of a kind of like, oh, hello, because it was very windy. But and our flight was 20 minutes early arriving.
Really?
Back in Gatwick, and it was like I thought, we've flown in on the wind.
Yeah,
but that was what it was. Because it was bloody windy. And I mean, I looked out the window a few minutes ago, and it's blowing a gale, and the rain's coming down. It's like, oh, joy and rapture,
Yeah.
So, where better to be on a cold and wet day than sitting here having a little chat with me, mate, talking all things theatre, mate, and all things film. Well, all things film today, isn't it?
Well, yeah, this is true. And then, first of all, thank you. That's a really, really lovely greeting. I'm sure you'll make up for it by being a bastard in other ways at some point.
Oh, at some point I'll get my own back, Sam.
You've got one in the bank now, so you sort of like you can get away with it. Matilda.
Isn't that a children's story? Isn't that Roald Dahl?
Roald Dahl, wrote the book.
Is there a film of that?
There are 2 Matilda films. It was a book.
Yeah.
It was then turned into a film. I seem to remember, and don't quote me on this, a bit like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Roald Dahl was very unimpressed by the film because they Americanized it.
Yes,
it was Danny DeVito and his wife, who I can't remember her name for the life of me right now.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Rita Perlman, is it?
Yes. She was in Cheers for years,
and they were fabulous, and I'm not questioning that at all. But obviously, there were Americanized elements to it and stuff like that. being that the whole film was set in America at that point, and they changed a few things. But then it was then turned into a musical. It was Tim Minchin, wasn't it? Did the music?
Yes.
For the
Yeah,
music.
the book and the music.
It was then turned into the musical, and then there was a musical film made of it based on the musical. So it's gone back and forth a bit.
Wow.
Well, that's when you pick and choose your work. I mean, this is again, we've chatted about Spotlight before. I mean, I'm really not, and I've been hauled over the coals by people on various websites about social media sites where I've said I don't mind that there's a yardstick. I don't mind that it's difficult for people to get on there. I agree. Have to prove. I mean, when I joined Equity years ago, you had to have 30 weeks of paid professional work to get your full equity card. And you couldn't work without one in those days.
No.
You couldn't get any work whatsoever.
So you will hear us reference that, because actually it was prior to me being fully professional.
Yeah.
I've always been a member of Equity because it includes insurances and things you just need. They are there, and they are a brilliant, brilliant union.
But it's no longer a closed shop.
No. Now, you pay your membership, you're in. As said, it used to be you had to prove that there was a reason
but
to
also,
do it.
you couldn't work. That was the main thing, is you couldn't
You had to
work
have your
without
equity card, a
You couldn't
physical
work.
thing.
And now, and that was closed shops was a huge discussion. I didn't think it was no bad thing. It didn't bother me. Now we're less exclusive about things, and now Spotlight have got a little bit stricter. People are going, "Oh, we can't get my Spotlight." Well, tough shit. Go out there and work. I have no problems with saying that. Tough. Go and work. I had to work. Many professionals, have had to work. People coming into the business that are cab drivers and bus drivers, and I used to do a bit of dance when I was 20. I'm now 40. I fancy doing a bit of work. Well, if you've got to do 6 or 7 credits to get on Spotlight, tough shit.
Yeah.
Go out and work. And if you get those, you get on. Then you get work. And if you meet me in an audition room and you've got your credits and you're on Spotlight, and I've got mine and I'm on Spotlight, and we're in there auditioning and we're on a level playing field, best of luck to you. You get the job. I don't care.
What else for the rest of the year? Anything substantial or anything?
I know I've got some more Einstein coming up.
Right, stop the clock! Stop the clock! He's mentioned it. We're
Sorry, but you did
about
ask.
20 minutes, I think. Anyone new to Drewling Samantics?
Sorry.
What's going on, you might cry. The little face sat opposite me, normally without that the little grey moustache under the nose, he may be slightly familiar to you. If you happen to have seen one of the millions of energy meter, smart meter adverts,
Smart energy, yeah.
irritate us every 15 seconds on TV, you might have noticed a character called Einstein in these things. Oh, I wonder who voices and plays that character, Drew. Any ideas, mate?
It's me.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
No
Yeah,
idea.
I know.
I don't think you've mentioned it.
Yeah.
But
Einstein, also known as my pension. So let's.
and that's where it is. But yes, so obviously I jest. I'm thrilled that it's still going on because number one, it gives
I'm
me
amazed and
to
delighted, but I am amazed. So, yeah. So I believe we've got one of those coming up shortly, some point. So yeah.
Excellent.
And after that, I can't say anymore. So
No, well.
I'm sworn to secrecy.
Ooh. I don't know, it's difficult because you want to give everyone the platform to sort of go thank you to everyone. It's a huge thing and very few people ever do it more than once. But equally, how long would it be if you allowed everyone freedom to just keep going
Exactly.
on and on?
Away you go. I mean, they do limit them, don't they? Your speech is no longer than blah minutes, and if you go over that, you will be cut off. So,
Yeah.
But I suppose one of the biggest political statements was, for our best supporting actor, I went for Benicio del Toro, you went for Delroy Lindo, and we both thought, yeah, pretty good bets. It was Sean Penn for One Battle After Another, who went, fuck you, I'm not going.
No, exactly.
He just went, I'm going to go. Wait, was he in Kiev Kiev or Gaza or something? I can't remember. He went to one of the big war zones and just said, I'm going there. Which his absence spoke volumes. He didn't need to make a speech. I mean, he could have stood up there and made a very eloquent and wonderful speech, and everybody knows his political activism. So he said he kind of had somewhere better to be. It was like, well, good on you. You've done your job. If they want to give you an award, that's his attitude.
Yeah.
But I think his absence spoke probably the loudest of anything all night long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get on to the elephant in the room,
Go on.
Stephen King. I've got down here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 15 here, big ones. There's probably another 10 that have been turned into films as well.
Yeah.
So if you think going way back, 1976, Carrie, Salem's Lot, 1979, The Shining, 1980. Massive. And Creep Show, 1982, Cujo, which is a great film. Dead Zone, 1983, Christine, which I think is a fabulous film, 1983, Children of the Corn, 1984, Stand By Me, 1986.
Why did I not think that Stand By Me was him?
I never think it's bad because it's such a cheerful film. It's such a lovely film.
Yeah, I guess it's just a completely different take on things. But
yeah, The Running Man, Pet Sematary, It in 1990. Of course, there have been
and then
several
two
films.
more since, haven't we?
Exactly. Misery, 1990. And then we get onto the biggies, which are Shawshank Redemption, novel 1982, made into a film 1994.
Yeah.
And then the novel of Green Mile, forget it's him.
Yeah.
I mean, probably one of the greatest films ever made, to be honest. Novel 1996, Green Mile 1999.
Both of those turned into stage productions.
Exactly. They've spawned stage shows.
Yeah.
So but there are more. I mean, all those. I mean, yes, admittedly, there is that genre of, horror, if you like, but I mean, if you look at the films, I mean, Carrie, I mean, that launched Sissy Spacek's career. After that, she's stunning. I mean, you look at, and The Shining. I mean, these are era-defining films,
We try to avoid politics because there are always two sides to every story with politics. You're always going to create waves by even suggesting you go one direction or the other. And so what we want to do is this be a happy, open conversation at all times on all subjects that are relevant. We do stick mainly to theatre, TV, film, anything in our industry, but sometimes it does wander a little bit because it becomes appropriate. We've talked about travel quite a lot because that obviously then relates to us. And when we were graced by the unwelcome guest, obviously that was a big part of the subject which affected everyone, not just our industry. But that all said, Donald Trump is fucking mental.
Mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scary shit.
But that's politics done for season 15.
That's it. Done.
Pretty much.
Trump is mental. End of.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. He can't fault the fact that he has supplied quite a lot of material for many, many fringe shows.
This is true.
Donald Trump the musical was at Edinburgh last year, wasn't it? I think.
I think you're right. Yeah. Also, a lot of good. I mean, he's given impressionists. It's just hours of material. So he kind of creeps into our industry a little bit. But
nice use of the word creep. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Moving on.
If you want to be a painter and you're going to, do you know what I'm going to do still life? I want to paint that bowl of fruit. You don't go into Asda and go, do you want to collaborate? Can I borrow you? I want to borrow 2 bananas, an apple, a pear and a grapefruit.
I'll bring it back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It'd be great exposure, Asda. Other supermarkets are available.
Wow, you're still doing Drewling Samantics. That is amazing. Yeah. What season are you on now? And, we go, 15. And they go, right, I've got some catching up to do.
Exactly
I'm 6 seasons behind, mate,
So you'll get people out of the blue come up to you and sort of go, I listened to blah, blah, blah episode the other day, one of my favourites ever. And you think, bloody hell, like, you sort of forget, like, we do this and we enjoy it and it's great. And then do the edit, out it goes. And we don't really track numbers all that much because it's not a numbers game for us. We are in the same position as when we started. We are unpaid. This isn't a paid job. Now, don't get me wrong. No. There are sponsorship things that come along and you'll hear the odd advert now and then. But we're not doing this because it sustains us. We're doing it because we believe in the cause, as we did right at the start. Yes, the purpose is still very similar. It might have shifted slightly, but we're still doing it. The word for me, I think, is awareness. Like your big actors are on posters, and your big shows are advertised everywhere, but not everyone knows the name of the makeup artist or the people in the stunt team or your post-production crew or anything like that. So what we wanted to do was bring those names and those jobs specifically to light. And we're still doing that now. And we will continue to do that regardless of what we get from the podcast on a sort of a financial level or what have you. Of course, we'd love this to be something that we can earn more from, but that is never what it was meant to be, and it's never what we're waiting for. It won't get to a point where it's so big that we go, fine, well, we can stop now because we've made them. That's not what it's about. And it's another reason we're still going, because every single day we're meeting new people who are helping this industry run, and creatives, even if they're not faces you see, are essential to the world in general. So we will continue bringing those people out, and anyone who's got a story to tell, anyone who's passionate about what they do, come on in, because that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. I mean, and you know, it is a world. The creative world is, you never stop learning, and you know, we learn something new from almost every one of our guests who comes on, explains the nuts and bolts of what they do. And you get that, you know, I never knew that, or I did know that, but tell everyone else, because why would anybody else that they're not in the industry know? But it's very interesting, you know. I mean, I would be equally as interested if somebody came on. They probably won't, but somebody came on who was an engineer or who made, you know, had some technology. I'd be sitting there equally fascinated. Right? I don't know how that works. I don't, you know, it affects us directly if we, you know, work on a film. If, you know, the sound engineer, you know, how does that work, mate? Blah. You know, I don't necessarily need to know how a boiler works, because I'm not going to, you know, except if it gets cold and I can't turn it on, then I might bloody want to know.
Well, yeah,
but
exactly.
But it's interesting that you say that we never really had a plan, you know, but equally we didn't say, like you said, we didn't say, right, well, after 6 months we'll stop, you know. I think it's our we personally enjoy meeting each other if we haven't been working together, whatever, you know, every week and having a natter anyway. That's great. And that was probably initially what you and I got from the podcast, is the fact that we could sit there, talk to someone, have a beer, and vent. But you know, it's just a joy to bring it, you know, and there is no end to this, because there are so many more stories to tell. You know, and yeah, we let's just keep doing it. Well, Sam, I mean, what a wonderful selection. We've had so much fun, and we've reached an amazing milestone. It's been a brilliant season.
Oh, it has, certainly. And I think I'd like to sort of reiterate everything we were saying at the end there, that we love what we do. Yes, we set out with no sort of plan, so to speak, but the journey we've been on and where we've got to, even if it's something we could never have imagined or never predicted, has just created so much enjoyment, hopefully not just for you and me.
Well, no, I mean, we've had some amazing guests on the way. We've had some lovely responses from, you know, viewers and listeners, and it's made every minute worthwhile. And hopefully, I mean, from those stuttering few first days when we were both in the middle of what nobody really was able to get to grips with, we are now in a better place to, as you say, to just keep on doing this. It is so much fun. And I have learnt so much from doing this, you know.
Oh, yeah. Beyond just like facts and things about stuff in the industry, the progression of the podcast and learning how to take it from where it started to where it is now, and hopefully a lot further in the future. I mean, it's been a learning curve. It's been an enjoyable experience. There've been ups, there've been downs, but we're still here, and we have no plans to go anywhere else just yet.
No plans to go anywhere else. I love what you did there, Sam. Brilliant stuff.
So
well, thank you, everyone.
We should say one final thank you to everyone, Drew.
Well, I was just about to say that. Do you want to do it together? Should we give her a countdown? Let's see if we can really work in sync here.
Yeah.
I'll give you a
about to be the
3, 2, 1.
worst thing we've ever done, by the way, but we'll try it nonetheless.
Well, I think we should try and do this, mate.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, after 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, Robert. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, watchers, viewers, listeners, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Yes, it has been an absolute joy bringing content to all of you for the past 5 and a bit years. And we genuinely want to say from the bottom of our hearts that we enormously appreciate it.
Yep.
Please do keep coming back. We're going to have a few weeks break now. If you're watching this as they come out, if you're watching back in future, just go to the next one that's been uploaded or whatever. Yeah. But whether you are on the move, whether you're at home, whether you're in the bath, whether you're in the air, wherever you're listening or watching, it means the world that you're with us, and we look forward to seeing you in Season 16. Thanks again for watching this special highlights episode of Drewling Samantics.
Remember, you can watch all our previous episodes in full. And make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.